So, the new patch is actually good. This is rare to hear, but it seems like a majority of the player base is agreeing that the new patch that came out this Tuesday is actually pretty good. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, I agree with the majority after reading through the patch notes. Starting off, they added the control center and the galactic campaigns, and I think that this is a really good feature. So now we get more context around what we're doing with major orders and the new campaigns that they added. And now we'll get an additional award on top of the medals from the major orders if we complete a majority of them during the campaigns. It'll also archive past campaigns starting with the new one today, so new players and like returning players, they can read back and see how we got to the point that we're at. The second change in the patch notes is now that vehicles will have more accurate armor values, and let me say something, this is an amazing change. Now vehicles, they feel a lot more accurate to how they should be, and they're really fun to use now. Now the Bastion gets heavy armor, meaning it's immune to small arms fire and some of the smaller explosions, and I think this is an amazing change. I mean, I never understood before why a literal tank could take damage from like the equivalent of getting some toilet paper wet and just chucking it at it. It just took damage from everything. It would die too fast. It just couldn't get around that fast. It would take damage from everything. It would just blow up after a few minutes. I think this is an amazing change. Additionally, the exosuits and the ballistic shield also got some buffs to their armor rating, with the exosuit getting heavy armor on its main body and its limbs now getting medium armor. I really like this change because now my exosuit won't get torn limb for limb by swarms of Outlets. Yeah, another change they made though was now the ballistic shield gets AP4. And personally, I don't think that a handheld shield should have the same armor rating as a literal tank. But, that's just my opinion. It's still fun to use for the, maybe 3 people out there that use it, but I'm just not one of those people. Yeah, but however, it's not all sunshine, rainbow, la la land for us, We didn't get all buffs today, so, some enemies did receive buffs to their armor penetration to, like, help deal with the new armor rating that the vehicles got, but, like, not everybody. So, the small arms fire and, like, hunters, they aren't gonna go, like, straight through your bastion. I think that this is fine. Because before you wouldn't really have the enemy's armor penetration mattering, so it's pretty much what should kill a tank will kill a tank, and what shouldn't kill a tank won't kill a tank. I think that this is fine. They've also touched on the sentries, following their buff to enemies now dealing more durable damage. They've given our sentries 100% more health to compensate for the change. I think this is an overall positive because I feel like sentries already felt kinda squishy, so giving them more health is like a really nice change. Another like really small change they made, but I think is really positive, is they've also like improved reloading. So now if you dive, how before when you dived you'd cancel your reload, you have to do it all over again, you'd have to press the button again, go through the whole thing again, and probably by that point, if you had to dive before, you're gonna have to dive again, and you're kind of stuck in a loop. You can reload while diving now. This is amazing. Thank you, Arrowhead. I love you, Arrowhead. This was just something that got on my nerves so much. I'd be in a situation where I'm just getting overwhelmed by like terminids. I dive to dodge a warrior or something, and then I have to reload, but I keep dodging and dodging. I just can't reload to deal with them, so and then I eventually end up dying. honestly, I think this might be my favorite change in the entire update. Like, the only other change I think that is close to this one is the Bastion getting customization. I've been wanting this for so long, but now that we can finally make our Bastion look good. No, and they made it so you don't have to spend extra medals on it. It comes with the FRV pattern, so you don't have to go out to all your war bonds and pay like what, 55 medals to get another vehicle customization. It comes with the FRV now, so I think that's nice. You know, the one complaint I do have is that they could have waited to launch this change until they got permission from the copyright holders for the legendary war bonds, because the primary vehicle pattern I use is the one from the Killzone war bond, so I don't get the customization yet for my Bastion. But yeah, it's fine. It's not a huge issue for me that I don't get my customization yet. You know, I'll have to wait a month or two, it's fine. Yeah, but like, other than the main changes I just highlighted, there's not really a lot of more major changes, so I'm gonna go through the rest of the changes here. I'll let you form your own opinion on these changes, but me personally, I like all these changes, you know. First off, they reduced the exosuit cooldown. They buffed a majority of the throwables in the game. Orbital stratagems, they got, a lot of them got buffed. One thing I think I should mention here is now the rail cannon can one-shot box engines. Do with that information as you will. Chargers also now have a harder time turning mid-charge, and they'll be stunned after a charge for longer, so chargers do not turn on a pivot anymore, thank God. The Alpha Commander grew some balls. He's not a pussy anymore. I think that's nice. Fox Engine just got nerfed into oblivion. I'm okay with that, because before there'd be 8,000 of them. They're so fucking annoying. And they fixed a lot of bugs, so I'm fine with all of this. Now, overall, I think this was a great patch. Lots of minor changes, but everything feels nice. This is probably the first update in a while that the majority of the player base can agree on. It's good. As with recent updates, there was always a large group of players who would make it known that they had issues with the updates, and honestly, I agreed with them sometimes, like for example, the AP4 Hive Guard, but this new update, breath of fresh air. Anyways, bye-bye!